The last morning in Japan came without an announcement, without a loud noise, without a sign that time would soon close its doors. The city was still breathing slowly as the sky began to change color, from dark blue to soft gray, as if holding back anyone who had to leave. Behind tight schedules, tight security, and the rhythm of the entertainment industry that never really sleeps, that morning felt different. It felt too short. Japan has always had a unique way of making a breakup feel deeper. Not with tears, but with silence. Neat streets, stations that keep moving on time, cafes that open their doors as usual. The world runs normally, while for some people, time seems to stop. In that last morning, every second had a heavier weight than usual. For Jungkook, the morning was not just the end of journey. It's a small slice of life rarely seen in public. A moment between the camera's spotlight and the demands of the stage. No stage, no microphone. Only the suitcase is ready. The hotel window still leaves the reflection of a morning light and thoughts that may wander further than the distance of the next flight. That last morning in Japan was not only brief for Jungkook, but also for Taehyung. There's a type of silence that only arises when two people who have known each other for too long are in the same space without the need to talk much. The silence is not awkward, not empty, but full of things that have been understood without having to be explained. On that morning, Japan bore witness to such a moment, a small moment that the world had never planned to see. Taehyung wakes up earlier than usual, not because of the schedule, but because his body seemed to be used to being awake when time was running out. The morning light slipped through the crack of the curtain, bouncing gently on the floor, and for a moment he just sat, silent, letting his thoughts wander anywhere. The Japanese always gave him a distinct sense of calm, and the last morning always made it feel deeper, almost painful. Fans may see it as a routine. Come, work, then leave. But for those who watch with their hearts, the last morning always harbors unspoken emotions. Japan is not just a work destination. Here, there are memories of rehearsals, small laughs in between schedules, silent nights after concerts, and brief mornings that feel like a safe space in the middle of an ever-demanding world. Time in Japan often feels short, as if the country is deliberately teaching that beauty never asks to be held back. It is present, makes an impression, then leaves gracefully. Perhaps that is why the last morning always feels the heaviest, because it is there that the realization arises that something calm and valuable is being left behind. The step towards the airport always has its own rhythm. There are pauses between steps, a gaze that is not fully focused forward, and a silence that feels deeper than a conversation. Not because there's nothing to say, but because too much is difficult to say. The last morning was rarely filled with big words. He is filled by little things. A cup of coffee drunk more slowly, a short look out the window, a breath drawn deeper than usual in the public eye. Jungkook remains Jungkook, calm, reserved, and walking with an aura that is difficult to describe. But that morning, many felt something different. It is not the obvious sadness, but the calm that brings a sense of separation. Like someone who has made peace with having to leave, but still has hope of returning. The army in Japan understood that feeling very well. They do not demand attention, do not expect big moments. Their prayer is simple: safe passage, preserve health, and an unwritten promise that this meeting will not be the last. In a culture that values distance and politeness, separation is often expressed silently, and that is precisely where the sincerity is felt. The last morning is also a reminder of the human side of an idol. Behind the global schedule and overwhelming expectations, there is someone who also feels the weight of leaving a place that gives a sense of comfort. Someone who, like all of us, might wish time could go a little slower at certain moments. When the plane finally took off, the Japanese remained there, calm, neat, and as if unchanged. But for those who left, there was a small part left behind. Memories of the last morning, the soft light between the buildings, and the feeling that time, again, is passing too quickly. And maybe that's the true meaning of the last morning in Japan. Not about the end, but rather about awareness. The realization that even a short moment can leave a long trail. The realization that parting is not always painful, but always meaningful. The realization that one day, the same steps will again tread the same ground. With a new story, a new time, and a sense of longing that was once stored in that morning that felt too short. Jungkook followed soon after. There was no big greeting, just a small nod, a short look, and a barely perceptible slight smile. They don't need to ask how each one feels. The years together have taught that some things don't need words. There's the same feeling of fatigue. There's the same realization that this morning is the limit. Not the end, but a pause that must be accepted that on a small table by the window, 2 cups of coffee cooled slowly. Their conversation faltered, not because there was nothing to talk about, but because each topic felt too light for a heavy morning. Taehyung stared out into the quiet street, then said quietly about how quickly time had passed. Jungkook nodded, adding that Japan always made him feel like he had just arrived. Even when he had to leave, there's a little laugh in there. Not loose laughter, but laughter that arises from old habits. A simple way to contain an overfilled taste. They talk about ordinary things, food that has not yet been tried, places that want to go again someday, and schedules that are already waiting ahead. But behind those words, there's a feeling that runs parallel. A sense that moments like these are rare and therefore precious. The journey to the airport was quiet. Inside the vehicle, there is no loud music. Only the sounds of the city slowly awakened, and the occasional breath sounded deeper than usual. Jungkook sat with a straight look ahead, while Taehyung occasionally turned his head, as if to make sure that this moment was really real, not just a piece of time that would soon turn into a memory. When they finally stepped in the airport area, the world again moved faster. Cameras, gazes, and whispers begin to appear, but in between, Jungkook and Taehyung keep walking side by side. Not too close, not too far. Enough to feel each other's presence. It is enough to remember that in the midst of the global hustle and bustle, they still have a small space that belongs only to them. Many noticed the move. The way Jungkook adjusted his rhythm. The way Taehyung walked with a characteristic calmness. But not many really understand what that morning means for both of them. For Jungkook, Taehyung's presence is an anchor, something familiar in the midst of constant change. For Taehyung, the togetherness is a reminder that he is not alone in facing the separation that keeps recurring in their lives in long hugs. Know that dramatic gestures, just a brief glance before their paths, are slightly separated by procedures and schedules. But at the end of the day, there's an unspoken promise. The promise that this short time was not in vain. That although the last morning in Japan seemed too soon, his memories would last much longer. An army that sees from afar might only capture a small chunk of it all. A photograph, a short video. But for Jungkook and Taehyung, that morning was a collection of moments that will always be remembered. Not for their magnitude, but for their sincerity. Japan, once again, teaches them about the fleeting beauty and quiet farewell. When the plane finally took them away, the city stood still in its quiet way. But among the thousands of steps that left Japan that day, Jungkook and Taehyung's steps brought home something unseen. A sense of gratitude for the togetherness that still exists, and a belief that time, no matter how fast it goes, has never really been able to erase the bond that had been built for so long. The last morning in Japan ended, not with loud sadness, but with a meaningful silence. And within that silence, Jungkook and Taehyung stepped forward, carrying memories that the world may never see, but will always live among.